The day I stopped missing my best friend. I didn't smile at the funeral, but deep down, I felt something worse than sadness. Relief. I know how that sounds, and I've replayed that moment in my head 1,000 times, trying to justify it, soften it, turn it into something more socially acceptable, but the truth doesn't bend, no matter how hard you lean on it. When I heard my former best friend was gone for good, a part of me finally unclenched. This isn't a story about celebrating death. It's a story about surviving someone who slowly erased you while standing right next to you. I met Evan when we were 11 years old, the kind of age where friendships feel permanent, like tattoos you don't even realize you're getting. We bonded over stupid stuff, video games, energy drinks we weren't supposed to have, staying up way too late watching reruns of shows we pretended to understand. He was loud, fearless, always ready with a joke. I was quieter, more cautious, the kid who thought before speaking. Together, though, we were unstoppable. Teachers called us a pair, parents joked we were attached at the hip, people assumed we'd grow old still sitting next to each other at some bar telling the same stories on repeat. Back then, Evan made me feel chosen, like out of everyone in the world, he picked me. That mattered more than I knew. But something shifted as we got older. It didn't happen all at once, it never does. It started with small comments disguised as jokes, little digs about my clothes, my goals, my personality. Everyone laughed, so I laughed too, even when it stung. I told myself that's just how guys talk, that I was being too sensitive, that real friends roast each other. The problem was the roasting never went both ways. Evan's confidence turned into dominance, and my loyalty turned into silence. He started making decisions for both of us, where we'd go, who we'd hang out with, what was cool and what wasn't. If I pushed back even a little, he'd roll his eyes or say I was killing the vibe. I learned quickly that agreeing was easier than arguing. By high school, he was the center of every room, and I was the shadow that followed him. If I succeeded at something, he'd downplay it. If I failed, he'd make sure everyone noticed. I remember the night I told him I wanted to apply for an out-of-state college, how excited I was, how nervous, and how he laughed and said, "Yeah, okay, man, be realistic." That laugh stayed with me longer than it should have. Still, I stayed, because walking away from a history that long feels like tearing out a piece of yourself. The breaking point came our senior year. There was a party, there's always a party in stories like this, and Evan had been drinking, loud and reckless, soaking up attention like oxygen. At some point, he started telling stories about me, exaggerating my worst moments, turning private memories into punchlines. People laughed, I didn't. When I asked him to stop, quietly, just between us, he shrugged and said, "Relax, I'm just being honest." That was the moment I realized honesty without empathy is just cruelty wearing a mask.
Graduation, not dramatically, just enough to hurt. Texts went unanswered, plans fell apart. He only reached out when he needed something. And then one night, months later, I got the call. Evan had been driving drunk. One bad decision. One curve in the road. That was it. I remember sitting on my bed, phone still in my hand, waiting for the wave of grief everyone talks about. It didn't come. What came instead was quiet. Heavy, but calm. No more waiting for approval, no more flinching at jokes. No more shrinking myself to keep someone else comfortable. At the funeral, people cried about the guy he was, the potential he had, the light he brought into their lives. I cried too, but not for the same reasons. I cried for the kid I was before I learned to make myself smaller. I cried for the years I spent confusing loyalty with self-sacrifice. And yes, buried under all of that was relief. Relief that the cycle was over. Relief that I could finally breathe without his voice in my head. It took a long time to forgive myself for feeling that way. Society doesn't give you a script for complicated grief. You're either devastated or you're heartless. There's no room for the truth, which is that sometimes losing someone means losing the version of yourself that was hurting. Over time, I rebuilt. New friends, healthier ones. People who didn't confuse kindness with weakness. People who listened when I spoke. Evan didn't ruin my life, but he taught me a lesson I wish I'd learned sooner. Not everyone who walks beside you wants you to grow. Some just want you to stay where you are so they don't feel smaller. I don't celebrate his death. I don't toast to it or smile when I think about it, but I no longer feel guilty for admitting this. His absence gave me my life back. And that's a truth I'll carry quietly, honestly, for the rest of my days.